Hey, TikTok community. It is Shamika, your favorite NOSA, and we are getting ready to start our TikTok live with the American Funding group. And we'll be talking about everything payroll funding, along with we'll be giving a ticket away to our NOSACon conference that'll be happening August 16th through the 18th in Atlanta, Georgia at the Georgia Tech Hotel and Conference Center. So we'll give everybody the opportunity to jump on the live, share out the live. I'll share it out and we'll connect with in Conference Center. So we'll give everybody the opportunity to jump on the live, share out the live. I'll share it out and we'll connect with, I'll give everybody a chance to get into the live here. Okay. So if you want to go ahead, I'm going to share out the live to a couple of people. Okay. And then we'll get started here shortly. Just give us a second. Let's see. And I'll also give you guys a chance to ask some questions. So we'll be talking about payroll funding, also known as invoice factoring, and how you can use it in your business, along with giving you guys the opportunity to answer some questions that you may have about what's going on in our industry. So definitely give us 1 second and we'll get started here. So, okay. So, and if you're new here to the community, feel free to jump in and let us know where you're from. Tell us about your agency. A little bit about me and what we do here at the NOSA Group is that I am the founder and creator of the NOSA Group, which stands for the Nurse Owned Staffing Agency. And we're essentially agency owners who happen to be in the healthcare staffing space. And we work together and we collaborate. So that's what we're doing, and we partner with different companies to help us through the process. So small business, no matter where you are, it's a little bit challenging. So at the NOSA Group, we kind of work together to support each other, network, partnerships, share information, ask questions. So that's a little bit how the community works. And I think we have Anna and Kim with American Funding, and they'll come in and talk a little bit about what they do and how they partner with healthcare staffing businesses. And then towards the end, we'll ask some questions and then we'll talk a little bit about the giveaway that we're doing here with American Funding for the NOSACon conference in Atlanta.
Yeah, hi, this is Anna.
Hey, Anna.
Hey, Kim will be in here shortly, but thank you for having us.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. We're glad to do it again.
Yeah, the last one went so well.
Yeah, we definitely need to make this a more consistent thing. I think people want to hear and be able to like ask questions and get information immediately. So
Yeah, definitely.
So whenever you want to get started, we can get started. And then I talked a little bit earlier about the conference, but I'll talk more in depth as we go towards the end.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that would be great. So just an intro on American Funding. We do payroll funding for staffing agencies. That's what we specialize in, and we do work with startups as well. So we work with companies that are just bringing on their very first contract. We also have staffing agencies that have been around for years. So we're super flexible. We don't lock anyone into long-term contracts or anything like that. So we work really well with startups. We love working with medical staffing. We got really busy with medical staffing probably 3 years ago. So we've seen a lot of the shifts and the changes that have happened the last few years. Of course, things got really crazy during COVID, and we saw our staffing clients just totally blowing up and getting super busy. So, of course, things have slowed down a little bit recently, but we still are seeing a lot of startups joining us, and we're still seeing a lot of people be successful. So we kind of wanted to talk about some things we've been seeing recently. And then Shamika, of course, I have some questions that, I kind of wanted to get your opinion on too. So, one thing I wanted to talk about that I've seen kind of discussed in your group a little bit is remote work. So obviously the last couple of years, remote work has been, kind of more popular. So is that something that you're seeing people try to integrate or more demand for that?
You mean as far as like hiring more remote
Mhm.
workers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that's probably happened in the industry before. There are definitely an element of healthcare workers who do remote work. I
Yeah.
think we're also seeing a lot more telehealth
Hmm.
happening as well as virtual nursing,
Hmm.
kind of some of the shifts that we see happening at the healthcare level side.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a thing.
Okay, yeah, I've noticed him talk about that more and more, which I thought was interesting. And then also, we've worked with a lot of clients who work with VMSs. So, is that still something you're seeing a lot where people are getting on with VMSs, like career staff?
Right. Yeah, I think for us, it's really sometimes the only option. I think during the pandemic, there was kind of that big influx, and there was definitely more opportunity
Hmm.
from a direct contract standpoint of view. And then as the pandemic kind of came to a little bit of a wrap, we saw more and more companies kind of consolidating or smaller facilities being bought out. So I will say that VMSs have been a primary option. A little bit depending on which state that you're in, where a lot of VMSs are heavier in certain states versus others. So,
Yeah, we've definitely noticed that. So, of course, with all the changes we've seen the last couple of years, we always try to adapt and serve our clients as much as we can. So, with the VMSs, that was kind of new to us a few years ago. We really hadn't seen a lot of that. And since then, we've taken on a lot more agencies that work with VMSs. Career staff is the one that we like the most. We have found that Genesis has just started paying slow, so we're a little hesitant to fund them right now. But career staff is always a really good one, and we're always comfortable funding them. So that's one nice thing about really specializing in funding for medical staffing. I think we see a lot of the payment trends with facilities, and that's something I wanted to kind of talk about too. Is a huge benefit I think of working with a funding company is that we really know payment trends and which facilities, especially the big ones like VMSs or Brookdale is a big one that we see a lot of people working with. Facilities like that, we can just get a good idea of payment. Of course, every funding company is going to run credit on potential customers. So running credit is a good start, and usually that does give you a pretty good idea of how well a facility will pay. But it's also just nice to have that experience. And 9 times out of 10, we have a client working with these facilities, and we always pass that information along. So with Genesis, it was just one client that we noticed Genesis started paying slower on, and since then we've kind of spread the word to all of our other clients to be kind of careful with them. Yeah, so that's one thing that I've noticed, and I think VMSs are still pretty popular. They definitely blew up a couple years ago, but we still see a lot of people working with them.
right. And I think, as time changes, a lot of people have experienced a little bit of challenges in the medical staffing space. That it's just like any other industry. I think most people just didn't expect the dip that it took, that we kind of see the impact of this year. But it's going to go back up. That's the question I have a lot of times when people talk to me. Hey, is it going to stay like this? It's going to go back up. Some things are pretty constant in the industry. So it may look different, which I think is the piece that more and more business owners are adjusting to.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of speaking of adjusting to the changes, I kind of wanted to talk about some ways we've seen our clients adapting to. So, we do see clients using a lot more technology based solutions now. So, when I first started, we've been around for about 20 years, but I started about 5 years ago, and we used to see a lot of paper timesheets. So that's one thing that has really changed that I think is a good improvement is a lot of people now are using, time tracking software, and that's awesome. We love that because
Yes.
that way, you're really confirming that people are, there when they say they are, instead of just having paper timesheets that can kind of be altered and things like that. So I do think that we're seeing people a lot more organized with things like that. And it just, helps streamline a lot of aspects of the process. So do you see anybody using AI based software right now?
A little bit. I use it myself, so
Okay.
definitely me. I'll go ahead and put my hand up first.
Yeah.
I think it's helped on a couple of different levels, but it's definitely helped, which I think is it, kind of what it's primarily targeted for is around the piece on the social media. So we definitely use that in our business. But I think it's also been a good benefit for even planning out, cold calls, or if you're trying to, create a portfolio or um, work with the federal government or different types of state or local agencies. AI gives you a good blueprint to work from, which I think for many people it was kind of hard to find that right fit, and definitely takes away the notion of starting from scratch,
Right.
which I definitely appreciate.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of adapts in the next year or two, because I think a lot of that stuff is just getting started, but we're hearing about it more and more.
And even research, I think a lot of times we take it for granted. There's a lot of ways to get research, and Google is great. But if you're looking for something more specific, or if you're looking to change your model of how your staffing agency pays out referrals, or if you wanted to look at, ways to save or cut costs, I found that AI at least gives me a good starting point,
Hmm.
and I kind of take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sure we'll hear more about that, throughout the year for sure. So, um, awesome. Well, so those are kind of a few of the questions I wanted to ask you about. Are you seeing any other trends right now, in terms of what types of facilities people are working with, or any changes you've seen so far this year? I know you kind of mentioned that things might be picking up, and we have seen some clients that have slowed down a little bit, but it does seem like things have been picking up the last month or two.
Right. I think in our experience, like even before the pandemic, there was a cycle of scheduling. Like I think scheduling picked up a little bit towards the end of the year as far as like healthcare staffing. And then, into like January, and then slowed down a little bit in the winter months. And then as we go into spring, thankfully, it'll ramp up again through the summer. So I think that was happening before everything happened with the pandemic. I think it'll still happen as we kind of exit out or post pandemic. And I think that's just based on how nurses work or
Mhm.
healthcare professionals work.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So have you seen many people kind of altering the industry they're in? Like we've seen some people moving more into home health. Are you seeing many people do things like that?
A little bit. So like kind of expanding their business. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people that entered healthcare staffing were in the home care space.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so a flip flop, home care, healthcare
Mhm.
staffing, even maybe CNA schools. We've seen a lot of people, enter the CNA school market,
Mhm.
scrub stores.
Mhm.
What else have we seen? Kind of creating their own technology. So the nice thing about nurses and healthcare professionals is that we're creative. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to kind of see and connect with people this
Uh-huh.
year at NOSACon to
Yeah.
see what they're up to.
Yeah, it's been great to see a lot of our clients adapting, and we do have some people who do both. So they do home health, um, and then they'll also do nurse staffing. So we've seen a little bit of more of that too. So it's been good to see how our clients have been adapting, and we one thing that we have really been encouraging our clients to do more and more the last year or so is with all the changes. We just can't say enough good things about joining a group like NOSA Group and having a mentor. It just helps our clients succeed so much more, and just having that network to kind of ask questions, and especially when it comes to changes and state regulations, and just throwing out new ideas and things like that. So we always suggest that our clients join a group like this, because we just see the difference in the success for sure, especially in a time like this when things are constantly changing.
Right. And I think, running a small business, no matter what the business is can be lonely, which is
Right.
kind of, the push that had me create the group, and really connect with other people, especially people who are in the industry already, who are maybe on the other side of the industry, or who may even have interest or have business backgrounds. So, having an accountability partner, somebody to vent to, somebody who can help you or refer you to other businesses that can support you really does matter. And I think it has contributed to a lot of the continual success of a lot of agency owners through the journey of times where it's just a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that some of our clients have had questions about is, we see a lot of people who get started and, they're brand new, they're just getting things up and running, and they're looking for their first contract. And sometimes they get a contract in a couple weeks. And sometimes it takes, 2-3 months to get their first contract. So, sometimes I think it can take longer than people are expecting. So what advice do you have for people who are looking for new contracts?
I would agree with you, Anna. It's
Yeah.
not a one and done. So I
Uh-huh.
think everybody's story is unique for a whole bunch of different reasons. And a lot of you put more work into it. I think someone was mentioning like 100 calls. You make more calls and more outreaches than you would receive responses. And that's really sales. And I think for some of us, we haven't done sales in the truest sense. So we
Right.
don't understand the 5,000 calls for 10, potential leads for two.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, for two actual people that'll, pay for your services or support you.
Right.
So having to do that is definitely really time consuming. So it's something that you have to, one, understand what it involves, but also dedicate the time to. So the consistency matters, the timing of it matters, and then, revamping what you're selling. So for most of us, you think, hey, I'm selling healthcare staffing services. Okay, that's fine. But are you selling anything else? Are you selling convenience? Are you selling the fact that, hey, we're nurse owned, we're unique, this makes us different, this sets us apart? Because there are a lot more staffing service-based businesses in the market than they were 2 or 3 years ago. So you have to really think about, when you do get that sale or that lead, what you did so that you can repeat it, but also if you're getting no's, especially no's, what you can do differently.
Right. Well, that's great advice. And how long are you typically seeing that it takes a startup to get a contract? Does it kind of sound right that it can take, 2 weeks to a couple of months, or what do you think is pretty standard? Yeah.
The strange thing about healthcare staffing in a lot of ways is it's really different in every state. So I've heard people get it in 2 weeks, but on average, it takes at least 3 to 6 months for people to get a contract. And it also depends on kind of what piece of the industry that they're looking in. If they're looking to be placed at a hospital, are they in a rural area? Are they in an urban city? And then if they're looking at like in nursing homes and skilled nursing facilities, if they're looking at places that have multiple needs or shortages. So that really, the location plays a bigger part in it than a lot of people realize, because throughout the US, there are certain states that are always having shortages. No matter the time of year, no matter what's happening, that's just kind of based on the need and the infrastructure of that particular state. So
Mhm.
those are things that, sometimes you have to do research on, and sometimes it's based on what's happening, that time of year. Like colder states tend to have more needs in the wintertime.
That makes
Um,
sense because I was about to say, I think our busiest state client wise is probably Minnesota. We see a lot of people in Minnesota, so
mhm.
that's a big one for us. But we have noticed too that definitely state by state things can vary a lot. So that's an interesting thing to think about. We have seen more clients working in multiple states, so I think that's something that some people like to consider too, if they can.
Yeah, branching out is hard to do, and it's hard to kind of know when you should branch out. But one of the things that I encourage people to think about is when you're stepping out there, you're kind of duplicating your business in another state. So you really want to make sure that you've done the research in that particular state to understand what's happening. Small things as much as small things like how far a nurse is willing to travel from home to go to work. And that's for healthcare professional. It doesn't just have to be a nurse. That's a big thing because in some metropolitan cities, nurses may travel up to over an hour. But in other maybe rural areas or spread out areas, they only are comfortable with traveling 45 minutes. And
Mhm.
that can really change your recruitment strategy in that particular state, like Minnesota or Iowa, Idaho, Wyoming, those types of states where they're willing to travel a little bit further because that's just how their geographic area is set up. People live here and then,
Mhm.
you work an hour away or something like that. But out here where I'm located, 45 minutes
Mhm.
max.
Yeah.
Um,
That sounds about right.
so, yeah.
So, are you still seeing a lot of travel nursing? We've seen that obviously slow down a ton the last year or so. But is that something that's still happening?
It's still happening. I
Yeah.
think the travel nurse space is kind of probably the more impacted than most realize.
Hmm.
As the baby, when they speak about, when there's a lot of conversation about the baby boomers and things like that, a lot of baby boomers are in healthcare. So I think the pandemic um, really started the process for people to retire, if they were in a
Right.
position to do so, if they were kind of in that cusp. So the succession planning as far as like the backfill piece is a little bit tricky just because the nursing schools aren't filling up and bringing out the same levels that people are exiting the industry.
Right. So, one thing I wanted to mention too about contracts and potential facilities. So, since we work with a lot of startups, we always encourage people to apply whenever they're ready. So, sometimes people are kind of unsure if they're applying too soon or, even too late. So, uh, people can apply anytime and once we get that application in, we love for people to just send us over potential facilities that they're considering working with. So when we're talking about, how much time and effort it takes to kind of find these first contracts, we of course want to help with that any way we can. So we always have our potential clients send us their facilities that they're interested in working with, and all we need is a name and address of the facility. And we can run credit and just give people a heads up if it's a good facility. So always good to run that by your factoring company and just make sure that the facility that you're interested in working with is going to be credit worthy for what you're planning on billing. So I'm sure you tell everyone about that, but that's something that probably one of our number one questions is something that we hear a lot from our staffing agencies is when they're new, when should I apply? When should I start looking? And how does it work when you don't have a contract yet?
Right. I think in those early stages, the ability to do your due diligence is really key. And you want to have that financing, that factoring in place because one day you could have called 500 people. And then on the next day,
Mhm.
that 501 call would be the call where they're like, yeah, we're looking for people. Can you help us? And then
Mhm.
everything starts to move really, really fast. So I do agree that
Yes.
you should make sure that you connected with the
Mhm.
American Funding, make sure that
Mhm.
everything's okay, and then, kind of work with them as you move through the process of
Mhm.
placing candidates.
Yeah, definitely. We always encourage that. And yeah, you're 100% right. I was just saying sometimes it takes a couple months to find a contract from the time they reach out, but sometimes we have people coming to us on a Tuesday who need money Friday. So you always want to be in the first position of, we don't need money yet, we're just applying, rather than being in that stressful spot of trying to get everything in ASAP, because that can be very stressful for sure when you're first starting out. So I think if you want to open it up to any questions about the factoring process or anything else that people want to ask about NOSACon.
Of course. I don't know if we have any questions. I'm gonna check. Oh, we might have a question there. I'm gonna check Instagram, because we did place it on Instagram too, and see if you guys have any questions about healthcare staffing. Quick questions, guys, for healthcare staffing, because sometimes the questions can be a little loaded. But if you have any questions related to healthcare staffing and payroll funding, about the process, things to be mindful of, maybe those first couple of steps that you need to make, definitely feel free to drop them in the chat below. I'm going to check out Instagram and see if you got any questions from Instagram. And then I'll talk a little bit about NOSACon with you guys. So, yeah, let's see.
And we are doing a NOSACon ticket giveaway, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. We're excited for that.
Don't see any questions. Let's see. No questions. I guess, Anna, while I look at the questions, did you want to talk a little bit about how the steps look, the first couple of steps they look, if they were interested in reaching out to you guys about any sort of
Yeah,
funding?
absolutely. So to get started, we like to have a call, just a quick call with everybody, just to go over the factoring process and answer any questions. And then the application process starts out with a quick app. So when you submit that, you'll get a response back within 24 hours. So it's a really quick response, and that is basically how you know that your application with us is pre-approved. So from there, we will send over a full app. That's just the remaining portion of the application that's a little bit more focused on documentation. So when you submit that quick app, there's a spot where you might put in some potential customers. So we kind of ask for your top 3 facilities that you want to fund. So some people, of course, if you don't have a contract yet, we'll just put the top 3 they're interested in. Or if you have a contract, of course, we'll want you to put that information down, and then we'll get back to you pretty quickly about what the credit looked like for those potential customers. And then the full app is the documentation side of things. So we understand that our startups won't have everything, and that's totally fine. So, people come to us at all different stages, and really what we're looking for is that they've got a business bank account set up. We'll need proof of that. And then that's also where we'll ask for any signed contracts that you want to fund, if there are any. So we'll just get that documentation in. And then once we have everything, we'll put it in kind of a holding. So for any app that comes into us that's pre-approved and just doesn't have a contract yet, we'll just get you pre-approved, make sure everything's good to go, and get you as far in the application process as we can. So that way, once they have that first signed contract, they can send it over to us, and the process moves really quickly from there.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see any more questions, but I did look on the Facebook group, and we did have one question about what's the difference between working with a payroll funding company and working with a back office?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you're working with a payroll funding, that's what we do. We do not do back office support. So what we do is we have our clients do the invoicing. They send the invoices into us for funding, and then we fund a percentage that hits their business account the next business day. So we're sending the money to our clients, and then from there, they have a payroll company separately from us that is going to go ahead and pay that payroll out of that account. So we don't do the payroll side of things. We do have a couple of partners that we can always refer people out to. But that's kind of that main difference. And that's a great question. We get that a lot is we want to make sure people understand exactly what our role is in the invoicing and all of that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was the only question
Mm-hmm.
that I've seen a lot of people interchange the two,
Mm-hmm.
and they're separate. They really are separate. So
Uh-huh.
a back office could have offer payroll funding,
Mm-hmm.
and then payroll funding, if you're only working with the factoring company, is a separate piece. And then you, the agency owner, is responsible for processing the payroll
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that your employees get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to know that so that there's no confusion about who's doing what. So
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
awesome. All right. Well, just to wrap it up a little bit, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We're going to share this video on our other social media platforms so you guys can participate as well. But let me go ahead and tell you guys a little bit about NOSACon. And we'll talk a little bit, and I'll talk a little bit about how the giveaway is going to work today. So, a NOSACon is the Nurse Owned Staffing Agency conference that we started in 2022. We had our first conference in Atlanta, Georgia, and we brought out about 130 nurse-owned staffing agency owners, partners, and supporters to Atlanta, Georgia. And we really had a fantastic time. So one of the things that we did while we were out in Atlanta over the weekend was we networked. We had breakout sessions and workshops. We had a panel. We had a meet and greet session, and we had a time to see each other in person and see the different agency owners in the United States. So when we talk about us coming together with a conference, hey, we're really talking about people throughout the United States. I think we represented probably about 15 to 20 states at that particular conference. So what we've decided to do again this year is another conference. And one of the things that makes this year exciting, a little bit more exciting, is that we're post-pandemic. So we've gotten through the pandemic, and many agency owners are 3-5 years into the business. So what we look to do this year is offer you guys an opportunity to not only come and get the information, education, resources, partnership, but we're also adding an exhibit space. So we'll have some exhibitors there at the conference, as well as we'll have some new breakout sessions that are really tiered towards a newer agency owner, so who had owned your agency for less than 3 years. So that's kind of considered our newbies, as well as experienced owners, because we want to make sure that not only is our conference a fun, entertaining opportunity and networking, we want to make sure that you guys come home with stuff to do, assignments to complete and next steps to take. So we'll have a track set up for advanced or experienced owners who have been in the business over 3 years. So we're excited to have American Funding be one of the attendees at the conference and speaking at a breakout session to just share information about funding, especially now that there's been some changes, a little bit of changes, as well as give you guys an opportunity to get some of your questions, maybe your more agency specific questions answered, so that you can have a clearer view as we go into the rest of 2024. And one of the things we're doing with American Funding is we're giving away a ticket. So if you didn't know, the tickets are already on sale. If you check out the link tree, you can get them there. I'll drop them here in the comment section. And what we plan to do for this particular TikTok live is give away a ticket to the conference. And the only thing that we're asking that you guys do is go ahead and drop your email in the comment section, and we'll do a raffle of the names of individuals who have dropped their emails and have someone pick the name of the person. So that's kind of what we have planned for this TikTok live. I'll share this video onto our Facebook group so that those individuals can participate as well. But we're looking to announce the winner on Monday, March 5th, right, Anna?
Yes.
Okay.
March 5th. So drop your email in the comments, and we'll do a raffle and give away a ticket to NOSACon. We're super excited for that.
So I'm going to put it on here, and then I'm going to also share the link. Early in the year, not really, but it's a little bit early in the year. But understand that the tickets are going to go quickly. And we intend to maintain what we did the year prior in 22, an intimate experience. So there won't be unlimited tickets. So if you have the opportunity and you're interested in purchasing your ticket, I would encourage you to do so as soon as possible. Or if you're interested in winning a ticket, go ahead and drop your email in the chat box.
Yep. And thanks everyone so much for joining us on this live, and we will keep everyone updated Monday with the winner of the raffle.
Okay. Thanks again, Anna, and your team over there at
Thanks for
American
having us.
Funding.
Thank you.
You're welcome.